What's up guys, my name is Ryan and I just returned from an adventure of a lifetime exploring the incredible country of Tanzania, and I want to share with you my favorite places and experiences. So here's my Tanzania top 10. Located in East Africa near the equator, Tanzania is one of the best countries to visit in all Africa. From going on some of the world's best safaris to the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, Tanzania has so much to offer. Me and my buddy Ellis Van Jason spent 2 weeks exploring the wonders of Tanzania, and I can't wait to share this video with you. Now, to get to Tanzania, we flew into Kilimanjaro's airport and got picked up by our guides Eddie and Fahad with safari goats and started our Tanzania adventure. The first place we went was Lake Natron. Now, to get here, it was a long 5-hour drive on dirt roads with incredible landscapes. We saw giraffes, zebras, and wildebeest on the way there. When we arrived at Lake Natron, we paid a fee to the local tribe to enter the area, and then we headed to our lodge where we stayed in these tents in the bush. After we settled in, we headed down to the lake, and I was just absolutely blown away by the scenery here. Now, Lake Natron is known worldwide for being home to one of the largest flamingo populations. It's a salt lake and has been called the deadliest lake on earth, mainly because not a lot of animals can survive in these salty waters, but the flamingos flourish as they are protected from most predators and feed on the algae in the water. It was just the most epic place with the flamingos flying and the surrounding scenery. At the end of the day, I experienced one of the best sunsets of my life. The clouds turned into this cotton candy color, and I got this insane shot of the wildebeest just walking around. I mean, this place is truly amazing. After Lake Natron, we decided we wanted to summit the volcano called Oldonyo Lengai. With a height just under 3,000 meters, it's known as the Mountain of God by the local tribes, and after climbing it, I totally get why it has that name. To begin the hike, we started at midnight. I honestly didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it ended up being one of the hardest hikes of my life. The climb was literally straight up the side of the volcano, and I was crawling on my hands and knees towards the end because it was so steep. But right around 6 a.m., we made it to the top, and the sun started to climb over the horizon, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. I was standing on the volcano's rim, and the crater was absolutely huge. It had this black bubbling lava inside, and it's said to be some of the coldest lava in the world. Now, not only was this crater amazing, but I was just blown away by the surrounding views. I could see the landscape extend forever as it was being kissed by the golden light of the sun. It's a view I'll never forget. The volcano was just so loud, you could hear the earth groaning, and it sounded like a thunderstorm. After resting for about 30 minutes, I got some strength and hiked along the volcano's rim to Ellis and his brother Saren. As I walked to the other side, I got one of my all-time favorite shots as I was standing on the volcano's rim overlooking the scenery below. It reminded me of the quote in Lion King where Mufasa says to Simba, "Everything the light touches is our kingdom." It was one of the most powerful views I've ever seen in my life. After, I headed back to the other side of the volcano, and Ellis was getting the craziest FPV shots down into the lava of the crater. And it was just this dark, bubbling mud, and it was such a spectacle to see. Our guide Elijah recommended that we headed back after spending about 2 hours on the top to avoid the midday sun. The trek was beautiful on the way down. When we reached our car, it was about noon, so it took us 12 hours in total. Even though it was one of the hardest physical challenges I've ever done, it was hands down one of my all-time favorite travel experiences. Now, afterwards, we're going to head to Arusha. Now, if you're flying into Kilimanjaro Airport, Arusha is the closest big city, and it's just located about 20 minutes from the airport. I was really impressed with Arusha. It's this decent sized city that is super lush with fairly cool temperatures. There's a lot to do in and around the city. One really cool place near Arusha is the Napuru waterfall. It's situated in the Meru forest, and it's located about 30 minutes from central Arusha. Now, the area up here is amazing. It's a lush rainforest full of giant trees and beautiful vegetation. To get down the waterfall, it's a relatively easy hike that only takes about 30 minutes. The trail is absolutely beautiful. I felt like I was walking into the Garden of Eden down there. The last part, you stroll through this stone gorge, and then you reach the waterfall. I was just surprised how tall it was. When we were there, the current wasn't too strong, but the falls is much stronger during other parts of the year. Ellis sent his FPV drone into the waterfall and got some of the coolest slow motion shots flying through the water droplets. If you're in Arusha, I highly recommend coming here for a nice day trip. After, we're going to visit Mount Kilimanjaro. This may be the most iconic place in Tanzania and all Africa. Located in the northern part of the country, right next to the Kenya border, Kilimanjaro is the highest peak in Africa and is also the tallest freestanding mountain in the world with an elevation of 5,895 meters. What's great about Kilimanjaro is that you can hike it without any technical climbing gear, basically just walk to the top. The trek takes anywhere from 5 to 10 days depending on the route. The longer the trek, the higher chances you have to summit because it allows your body to acclimatize to the high altitude and low levels of oxygen. While we were there, we went to the park gates and hiked in the rainforest at the bottom. It was just so lush and beautiful inside there. Now as you scale up the mountain, the scenery changes into totally different climates. It goes from a lush rainforest to the heather and moorland zone, then the alpine desert, and as you reach the summit, it's the Arctic zone. I wasn't able to climb Kilimanjaro on this trip, but I plan to summit it when I come back. I know it would be an adventure of a lifetime. Another amazing mountain to climb in Tanzania is Mount Meru. It's the second tallest mountain in the country with a height of 4,562 meters. It's a dormant volcano and takes about 3 to 4 days to summit. Now many people might overlook Mount Meru, but if you want to experience less people and have a more affordable adventure compared to Kilimanjaro, Mount Meru is worth it. Now similar to Kilimanjaro, you're going to hike through different climate zones. The summit is just absolutely amazing up there, and you get an amazing view of Kilimanjaro in the distance. It's easily one of the most underrated summits in all of Tanzania. Afterwards, we're going to visit the Usambara Mountains. Located about a 6 hours drive from Arusha, the Usambara Mountains are one of the most beautiful yet undiscovered places in Tanzania. My buddy Jackson Groves hiked over 80 kilometers through these mountains, starting from Lushoto and ending in Matai, and I'll link his video in the description below. If you want to explore the Usambara Mountains, you'll most likely start in the town of Lushoto, and if you decide to do a hike, you can hire a local guide to take you through the mountains, or if you're really adventurous, you can do it yourself. On your trek, you might run into local wildlife such as monkeys or the shy chameleon. Now, one place that has an incredible viewpoint near Lushoto is the Irente viewpoint. It offers a just spectacular view of the lush Usambara Mountains. Another scenic spot is near the town of Mambo, and it's called the Rilt Viewpoint, and it just offers some phenomenal views of this special place in Tanzania. Afterwards, we're going to venture off of Tanzania's mainland to visit tropical Zanzibar. Located about 25 kilometers off of Tanzania's coast, Zanzibar is an archipelago made up of 2 main islands. If you love crystal clear waters, white sand beaches, and just tropical vibes, you'll really enjoy Zanzibar. Now the best time to come here would be from June to October when it's outside the rainy season. When I imagine Tanzania, I certainly don't think of incredible beaches and tropical islands, but Zanzibar has it all. I wasn't able to see Zanzibar this trip, but when I come back, I want to give Zanzibar a visit. After, we're going to venture to Lake Manyara National Park. It's located about a 3 hours drive from Arusha. The national park is home to this huge lake that boasts all sorts of animals. One thing that I thought was really interesting about Lake Manyara is that it's home to tree climbing lions. We stayed just outside the park at this place called Migombani Campsite. It was this haven located high up in the valley, and it had this pool that had a phenomenal view of Lake Manyara. Afterwards, we're going to head to the Ngorongoro crater. When it comes to a combination of wildlife and natural beauty, Ngorongoro crater is one of the most impressive places in all of Tanzania. The crater is over 16 kilometers wide and is the biggest intact caldera in the world. Inside the crater, there's basically every single safari animal. From Arusha, it's about a 3 hours drive to Ngorongoro's gates. Once we were there, our guides paid the entrance fee and we headed into the conservation area. After the gate, there's no paved roads to keep the habitat wild for all the animals. We even saw an elephant just chilling on the side of the road. Now just 10 minutes from the gate is this lookout point. It offers one of the best elevated views of the entire crater. I mean, the area is just massive, and it's wild to think that this was once an active volcano. You can drive down to the crater, you descend about 600 meters to reach the floor, and you'll find all sorts of animals living there. It's truly a wonder. For our final destination, we're going to visit the Serengeti National Park. When it comes to the African safari, the Serengeti is easily one of the best places in the world to see all of Africa's wildlife in its glory. From millions of wildebeest running during the Great Migration to prides of lions relaxing on the rock islands, the Serengeti is the Lion King in real life. To reach the Serengeti, there's a few ways you can go about it. You can make the 6-hour drive from Arusha, which is what we did, or you can also fly into the Serenera airstrip. Now I'm not gonna lie, the Serengeti wasn't cheap. Every day it costs a good chunk of money to be in there, but it's 100% worth it. As for lodging, if you're on a budget, you can stay in a tented campsite, and on the luxury end, there's a ton of options. We stayed at the Four Seasons for a couple nights, and I had to say it's one of the coolest places I've ever stayed. It's situated in this just green wonderland full of trees and so many animals. When you arrive to the lodge, you'll enter the gates, and then you'll be greeted by a Maasai warrior who escorts you to your room. He was telling us how sometimes animals will jump up on the boardwalk, which I thought was so cool. Now the room was absolutely amazing, and from the deck I could see animals such as zebras, Cape buffalo, and impalas. I think the highlight of the Four Seasons is its pool area. There's this water hole in front of the pool that attracts the wildlife. I remember seeing this picture of people in the pool with elephants in the background, and that's what made me want to come here. Now, since it was the rainy season, a lot of the animals didn't need the water as much, but during the dry season, I guess tons of animals come to the water hole to get a drink. Overall, what I loved about the Four Seasons was just how integrated it was with nature. Whether you were walking to your room or just relaxing on your deck, you were bound to see some animals. So if you're looking for a place to stay, I definitely recommend the Four Seasons. Now, one activity you should consider doing is taking a hot air balloon safari. We went with Serengeti Balloon Safari, and we woke up at 4 a.m. and drove to our launching site. They were filling up that balloon with hot air, and I just couldn't believe how big it was. They told me it's the third biggest hot air balloon model in the world. Now, to get in the hot air balloon, the basket is laying flat on the ground and you jump in. As the balloon fills up with air, the basket slowly rotates to the upright position. In total, it held 16 passengers, so it was really huge. Once you're in the air, it's the weirdest feeling because it's absolutely silent up there, except for the sound of the fire heating up the air. It was the coolest thing, just looking for animals on the savannah. We saw some hippos and lots of other wildlife. At the very end of our tour, we got pretty high up and could see an incredible 360 view of the Serengeti. After we descended and we landed in the middle of the savannah, we celebrated with some champagne or mango juice with the captain, and then we had a luxury full English breakfast in the bush. I mean, honestly, it was an amazing experience, and if you can, I highly recommend doing it while you're in the Serengeti. Now, my all-time favorite thing to do in the Serengeti was going on game drives. Every day we'd wake up and be out from sunrise to sunset, witnessing so many incredible moments. One thing that I thought was so interesting about the Serengeti was that it had different areas with certain types of landscapes and wildlife. For example, there was this one place that had short green grass with termite mounds, and that's where we saw a majority of the cheetahs. There was also these vast plains, and that's where the millions